Long ago, our story's history commenced. Around 3 billion years ago, we existed as tiny atoms, drifting in the world's petri dish. Approximately a million years ago, the first hominids emerged, belonging to the primate family, including humans. Homo erectus, a million years ago, was the initial species to venture out of Africa and populate other regions, boasting larger brains than their primate ancestors. Evidence of Neanderthals surfaced around 400,000 years ago, adapted to the cold climates of Europe and Western Asia, with remarkably human-like facial features. Subsequently, Homo sapiens, the lone surviving species of the Homo genus, emerged. But how did Homo sapiens attain global dominance through civilization? Our narrative begins in the fertile Mesopotamian lands circa BCE, nestled amid the great Tigris and Euphrates rivers in Uruk. Unlike our ancestors who relied on hunting and gathering, Uruk's inhabitants devised a method to cultivate cereal grains like wheat and barley. Yet, transforming these grains into edible sustenance proved labor-intensive. Initially, a hand mill consisting of 2 stones was employed to crush grains, collecting the resulting flour for future use, marking the dawn of agriculture. This innovation liberated us from dependence on hunting and gathering, empowering us to generate our sustenance. Consequently, Uruk flourished, boasting over residents. Nevertheless, this transformation impacted human physiology, resulting in a noticeable decrease in average male and female heights. Formerly agile athletes, we evolved into smaller, inconspicuous farmers, fundamentally altering the human experience. In the early BCE, legend has it that King Gilgamesh assumed leadership as the Sumerian king. The Epic of Gilgamesh, among the world's earliest poems, recounts Gilgamesh's quest for immortality, encountering the sage Utnapishtim, who divulges a tale of a catastrophic flood. Gilgamesh laments the futility of seeking eternal life, acknowledging mortality as humanity's inherent fate. By the century's end, the Akkadians supplanted the Sumerians, with Sargon the Great ascending to power and subjugating Sumeria. Concurrently, in the Indus Valley, a burgeoning civilization thrived, renowned for its sophisticated sanitation system, featuring toilets equipped with seats and chutes connected to subterranean drainage networks. A network of covered drains efficiently whisked sewage away from homes, thwarting the perilous spread of disease. Waste management protocols ensured treatment and disposal beyond city confines, fostering a clean and hygienic urban environment. Meanwhile, in the realms of ancient Egypt, the focus veered more towards the grandiose endeavor of pyramid construction, overshadowing the rudimentary development of plumbing systems. This diversion stemmed from deeply ingrained religious beliefs prevalent in ancient Egyptian culture. The conviction that pharaohs transcended mortal boundaries to perpetually reign in the afterlife underpinned their societal fabric. To safeguard this transition, intricate mummification rituals were meticulously performed, preserving physical forms to facilitate the journey of the spirit into eternity. Within the towering edifices of pyramids, lavish offerings and treasures were interred, intended as provisions for the pharaoh's eternal sovereignty. For every pharaoh, the pursuit of immortality in the afterlife stood as the pinnacle aspiration. To etch their legacy indelibly into the annals of history, the construction of pyramids became an imperative rite of passage upon their earthly demise. The saga commenced with Djoser's groundbreaking step pyramid at Saqqara, followed by Sneferu's ambitious ventures including the bent and red pyramids. Khufu, in a Herculean feat spanning 2 decades, oversaw the erection of the resplendent Great Pyramid of Giza, a timeless marvel revered through the ages. Subsequent pharaohs, Khafre and Menkaure, continued this legacy with the construction of the 2nd and 3rd pyramids of Giza, respectively. Amidst the sands of time, as the pyramids ascended to touch the heavens, across distant horizons, in the cradle of civilization, the first Chinese dynasty dawned around BCE, heralding a new era of dynastic rule and cultural advancement. The Chinese, much like the Mesopotamians, heavily relied on agriculture, cultivating rice, wheat, and barley among other crops. Legend has it that the Yellow River, prone to flooding, would devastate their harvests, leading to widespread famine and misery. However, amidst despair, Yu the Great emerged as a beacon of hope. Distressed by the calamity, he tirelessly traversed the Yellow River, devising methods to redirect its flow through levees and dikes, thus bringing regulation to its waters. After 13 years of relentless effort, the once rampant floods were tamed, bringing jubilation to the populace and acclaim to Yu as a savior. Thus began the Xia dynasty, marking the dawn of Chinese civilization. While the historical accuracy of this account remains debatable, it underscores a significant principle: merit should dictate authority. This concept reverberated through the ages, inspiring the formation of the inaugural Chinese dynasty and shaping the course of history. Meanwhile, in Mesopotamia circa 1772 BCE, King Hammurabi of Babylon laid the groundwork for modern legal systems. He commissioned a monumental stone slab, standing 7 feet tall and 2 feet wide, inscribed with laws governing every aspect of his realm. These laws ranged from punishing baseless accusations with death to exacting retribution proportional to the harm inflicted, such as blinding an assailant who had blinded another. In case he damages the eye or fractures the bone of a man's slave, he's obligated to pay half of the slave's value. But what King Hammurabi essentially accomplished was the establishment of a society governed by laws. He delineated stringent regulations, categorizing individuals into distinct societal strata of significance and livelihood. The worth of each person varied according to their societal rank. Ancient Babylon didn't harbor any pretense of equality, rather. It was glaringly evident that a noble's bone held greater value than that of a commoner, which in turn surpassed that of a slave. This pattern persists across history. During the rise of a relatively obscure civilization in modern-day Turkey, the Hittite Empire ascended under the charismatic leadership of Labarnus. From 1680 to 1650 BCE, he governed with astuteness, driven by the singular aim of unifying the Hittite city-states under a centralized authority. Labarnus led his forces on campaigns, capturing neighboring city-states and forging alliances with their rulers. A skilled diplomat, he adeptly garnered support from the populace. Ultimately, Labarnus consolidated power over all Hittite city-states, birthing an empire. A just and equitable ruler, he was revered by his subjects. Under his reign, the Hittites flourished, expanding their domain and positioning themselves alongside neighboring Egypt. Meanwhile, on the European continent, a cluster of city-states emerged in what is now Greece. Mycenaean Greece, spanning from 1600s to 1100s BCE, was characterized by an aristocratic warrior culture, comprising palace-centered states governed by rigid hierarchical structures. At the helm of this society stood the king. However, unlike a unified entity, each city-state operated autonomously. A city-state, encompassing its surrounding territory, constituted an autonomous entity. City-states like Troy, Mycenae, and Pylos began to proliferate. Concurrently, the earliest traces of the Greek written language, Linear B, surfaced, representing the earliest known Indo-European Greek records. Meanwhile, in Egypt, a different form of societal hierarchy emerged: the Egyptian social pyramid. Resembling the Great Pyramid of Giza, it widens at the base and tapers at the summit. At the base resided peasants and slaves, tasked with laborious agricultural duties, toiling tirelessly to sustain Egypt's populace. Following the culmination of the farming season each year, the populace turned their efforts towards the monumental building projects commissioned by the pharaoh, where they labored tirelessly to construct the awe-inspiring pyramids. Above them in societal hierarchy stood the artisans, comprising skilled craftsmen such as stonemasons, plasters, and sculptors, whose intricate works of art adorned the palaces and temples of the wealthy elite, defining Egypt's cultural legacy. The merchants, held in high regard, spent their days traversing the waters of the Nile, engaging in trade of precious commodities like gold, papyrus, and linen, thereby enriching themselves and contributing to the flourishing economy. Meanwhile, the scribes, revered for their mastery of ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics, undertook the vital task of documenting the empire's affairs, meticulously recording everything from the stores of food to the minutiae of daily life under the pharaoh's rule. In defense of the empire stood the soldiers, whose unwavering dedication to their duty involved safeguarding Egypt from external threats and launching preemptive strikes when necessary, ensuring the security and sovereignty of the land. Amidst the ranks of the military, they enjoyed relative comfort, being provided with ample provisions to sustain their service. Ascending the social ladder, one encountered the bureaucrats, esteemed government officials entrusted with pivotal administrative responsibilities, including the efficient coordination of logistical operations essential for the functioning of a complex civilization. Notably among them were the viziers, who oversaw the intricate bureaucratic machinery that sustained the empire's governance and infrastructure. Additionally, the priests played a vital role in the societal fabric, tending to the temples and religious rituals with utmost care, ensuring the favor of the gods and the spiritual well-being of the kingdom. Concurrently, the nobles assumed regional oversight, maintaining order and prosperity within their designated territories, thus contributing to the stability and cohesion of the empire. Yet above all loomed the figure of the pharaoh, revered as the divine intermediary between the mortal realm and the gods, whose authority was absolute and whose will was law. It was to serve and honor the pharaoh that every facet of Egyptian society was meticulously structured, from the levying of taxes on the farmers to the creation of exquisite artisanal masterpieces. Upon the pharaoh's demise, he was interred within the sacred confines of a pyramid, where it was believed he would transcend mortality and continue to reign eternally over Egypt, a testament to the enduring legacy of divine kingship. Thus, Egyptian society operated in perpetual reverence to the pharaoh, with every citizen fulfilling their designated role in upholding the grandeur and prosperity of the empire. The necessary provisions for the pharaoh were ensured by the merchants, while the scribes diligently followed him to record his thoughts, and the soldiers diligently safeguarded his empire. Simultaneously, the bureaucrats attended to tasks beyond the pharaoh's capacity, while he, occupying the highest echelon, maintained communion with the gods. Pharaoh Ramses II, reigning from 1279 to 1213 BCE, exemplified extraordinary accomplishments within this intricate social framework, orchestrating the construction of monumental structures like the Temple of Abu Simbel, the Ramesseum, and the Temple of Karnak. He also expanded the Egyptian realm, reclaiming territories lost by predecessors, save those under the Hittite Empire's sway. Metwali II, ruling the Hittite Empire from 1295 to 1272 BCE, harbored ambitions akin to Labarnes's, seeking global dominion by launching assaults on Egyptian territories. Undeterred, Ramses resolved to confront this aggression, setting his sights on the fortified city of Kadesh. Leading with 4 divisions totaling men, Ramses marched forth to challenge Metwali, who had forewarned his forces of the impending Egyptian incursion, fortifying Kadesh with a formidable contingent of 40,000 troops. Despite Ramses' tactical maneuvers aimed at outmaneuvering Metwali, the ensuing battle resulted in a protracted stalemate, neither side securing a decisive advantage. In the aftermath, both factions opted for peace and unity, marking a pivotal moment in history. Consequently, Ramses and Hattusili III, who ascended the Hittite throne following Metwali's demise, convened to forge an unprecedented accord. In the year BCE, through the diplomatic channels of messengers, the first ever peace treaty was solemnized between Ramses and Hattusili III, ushering in an era of diplomatic relations between their respective realms. In part, Ramses, the great king, the king of Egypt, shall never attack the country of Hatti to take possession of a part of this country. And Hattusili, the great king of the country of Hatti, shall never attack the country of Egypt to take possession of a part of that country. Then, a period of friendship occurred between these two once warring nations. Skilled in metalwork, the Hittites taught the Egyptians to make superior weapons and tools. At the same time, the Egyptians, masters of agriculture, shared their knowledge with the Hittites, trading for the benefit of both civilizations. Because of this, both civilizations prospered. Peace can lead to prosperity. The agreement was kept in place until around 1200s BCE because that's when the Hittite Empire fell, due to the constant attacks they faced from the Sea People, leaving the Hittite Empire lost in the annals of history. Meanwhile, on a continent far away, the first civilization in the Americas was taking root in modern-day Mexico. The Olmec civilization, from BCE to BCE, is often considered the mother civilization of Native American civilizations. However, sadly, not much is known about them, mainly due to their hieroglyphic writing, which historians still can't decipher. One of the few remains we have are these 17 colossal stone heads. In Mesoamerican culture, there is a belief that the head alone could contain an individual's emotion, experience, and soul. We may not know their leaders' names like those of other civilizations, such as Ramses and Hammurabi. When looking through the eyes of a stone head, we can still feel their presence. And in some ways they remain immortal, enshrined in history, for one day we may learn who they are. Meanwhile, in the East, the Zhou dynasty, from 1046 to 256 BCE, in China was taking its stride. The Zhou dynasty gained power because of the failures of the less critical Shang dynasty. They believed in the idea of a mandate from heaven. This resulted in 4 principles in Chinese dynastical structure that would be repeatedly echoed. Heaven grants the emperor the right to rule. Since there is only one heaven, there can only be one emperor at any given time. The emperor's virtue determines his right to rule, and no one dynasty has a permanent right to rule. A ruler in a dynasty could lose the mandate from heaven, and the heavens weren't always on the side of the rulers. Over time, it would fade into another dynasty. The heavens would send signs of droughts, famines, floods, and earthquakes across the land, signaling they'd lost the blessing from above. This is how the Shang dynasty fell, and the Zhou dynasty rose to prominence. The Zhou dynasty brought another style of government and the creation of feudalism. The system was straightforward, leading to another social pyramid. At the bottom lay the peasants, who were tied to the land and whose job was to produce crops for the empire. Then came the soldiers, whose job was to protect the lands from foreign invaders. Then the lords, who owned the land and taxed the peasants a portion of their crops, who in turn gave some of their crops to the king. The king, as the supreme authority presiding over the vast expanse of the empire, reaped the benefits of increased crop yields, thus amassing considerable wealth. In this system, all profits flowed into the coffers of the king, while the masses toiled tirelessly under the weight of their labor. It begs the question, why would individuals resign themselves to a life dominated solely by the toil of farming? This phenomenon finds its roots in two distinct reasons. Firstly, the exigencies of survival dictated such a reality. The sheer magnitude of feeding both an expansive empire and one's own family necessitated a multitude of hands engaged in the toil of farming. Secondly, there existed a philosophical underpinning to this societal structure. It was during the waning years of the Zhou dynasty that the seeds of Eastern philosophy began to germinate. Confucius, a towering figure of this era, formulated a philosophical system known as Confucianism. At its core lay a profound emphasis on the values of respect, loyalty, and responsibility, permeating all human relationships and endeavors. Central to Confucian thought was the notion of li, which encompasses the intricate tapestry of rituals, customs, and manners that serve as the bedrock of social interaction. Seen as essential for maintaining order and harmony within society, li delineates both the formal and informal codes of conduct guiding interpersonal relationships. Concurrently, the sage Laozi espoused the principles of Taoism. Taoism, with its ethos rooted in the concept of the way or the path, advocated for individuals to harmonize themselves with the natural rhythms of the universe, rather than resisting its currents. It extolled the virtues of living in tranquil accord with oneself, eschewing preoccupation with external circumstances beyond one's control. Central to Taoist doctrine was the concept of yin and yang, symbolizing the complementary and interdependent forces inherent in nature. By navigating the delicate balance between these opposing yet harmonious forces, individuals could attain a state of equilibrium and fulfillment. In this tapestry of philosophical thought, Confucianism and Taoism emerged as beacons of solace for the ancient Chinese farmers, providing them with a sense of purpose and guiding principles amidst the rigors of agricultural labor. However, as the wheels of time turned, the city-states of ancient Greece embarked on a trajectory of expansion and growth. Around 800 BCE, the Greek city-states confronted the stark reality of infertile lands, compelling them to seek grain imports to sustain their burgeoning populations. This imperative drove them to expand their territorial holdings, leading to the establishment of numerous colonies across Europe. Notably, the city-state of Miletus stood as a shining exemplar, boasting a network of over-colonies that bolstered Greek food production and economic prowess. From Marseille in modern-day France to Rostov-on-Don in Russia, the Greek colonies sprawled across vast swathes of territory, leaving an indelible mark on the landscape of the ancient world. Amidst this milieu of burgeoning city-states, Rome emerged as a formidable power in its own right. The legendary tale of Romulus and Remus, twins abandoned and nurtured by a she-wolf, serves as the genesis of Rome's storied history. Upon reaching adulthood, the brothers sought to establish a city on the site where they had been rescued by the she-wolf. However, their aspirations were marred by discord, as each brother harbored ambitions of having the city named in their honor. In a tragic denouement, Romulus emerged victorious, albeit at the cost of his brother's life, thus laying the foundations for the city of Rome in 753 BC. While the Greek city-states were preoccupied with colonization and territorial expansion, another figure loomed large on the horizon: Cyrus the Great, poised to carve out an empire that would endure through the annals of history. At that juncture, the Persian people found themselves subject to the yoke of Median rule, yet the winds of change were stirring, heralding the dawn of a new era. Legend has it that King Astyages of Medes, upon the birth of his grandson Cyrus, had a vivid dream foretelling a future revolt by the child against him. Acting upon this vision, Astyages instructed his chief advisor to eliminate the infant, but the advisor instead entrusted Cyrus to a shepherd for upbringing. Yet, troubles persisted for Cyrus. When Cyrus reached the age of 10, Astyages discovered his whereabouts and contemplated the child's demise due to the ominous dream. Despite his instincts urging him to act, Astyages ultimately spared Cyrus's life, a decision that would later prove to be his undoing. This decision proved to be Astyages' undoing. As Cyrus matured into manhood, he skillfully amassed an army and rebelled against his maternal grandfather. Fulfilling the prophecy, Astyages capitulated in 550 BCE, ceding power to Cyrus and cementing his place as a formidable ruler. Cyrus's conquests extended far beyond the borders of his grandfather's kingdom. He seized control of Babylon and asserted dominion over vast swathes of Mesopotamia and the Indus Valley civilization, solidifying his influence across diverse regions. Subsequently, Cyrus expanded his reach by seizing the Greek colony of Ionia, thus extending the boundaries of the Persian Empire. However, his reign was not eternal, as he eventually succumbed, leaving his legacy and empire in the hands of his successor, Darius the Great. Meanwhile, in the Greek world, two city-states, Sparta and Athens, emerged as dominant forces, each with its own distinct societal structure and values. Sparta, renowned for its military prowess, emphasized physical strength and warfare above all else. From birth, Spartans were groomed for combat, undergoing rigorous training and enduring harsh living conditions to prepare for a life dedicated to war. Their society was stratified into distinct classes, with aristocrats holding political power, free non-citizens obligated to military service, and helots enslaved to provide labor. Conversely, Athenian democracy, though celebrated for its ideals of governance by the people, was a complex and convoluted system. The governance structure revolved around the Council of 500 and the Assembly, each playing a crucial role in decision-making. The council, comprised of representatives chosen via random selection, reflected the diverse makeup of Athens' population, while the assembly granted every eligible citizen the right to vote. However, citizenship was a privilege reserved for free-born males with Athenian parentage, excluding slaves and non-Athenian natives from participation in the democratic process. Crafting the agenda for the assembly with its sprawling electorate of over 30,000 fell to the Council of 500, a task fraught with the challenge of managing the ensuing chaos. To restore order, 9 presidents were swiftly nominated on the morning of each meeting, entrusted with the critical role of ensuring adherence to rules and procedures. Their appointment just before the assembly convened rendered them virtually impervious to attempts at bribery. Amidst the tumult, the assembly conducted its business, engaging in lively debates and voting on a plethora of issues, ranging from the appointment of military leaders to the enactment of various laws and bureaucratic matters. Yet, Athenian democracy was not without its critics. Among them was the eminent philosopher Plato, who vehemently denounced it as barbaric in his seminal work, The Republic. In book, Plato expounded on the notion that true leadership required a deep understanding of navigation, metaphorically representing the complexities of governance. He questioned the competence of randomly selected members of the Council of, and pondered their capacity to contribute meaningfully to society. Plato advocated instead for a ruler steeped in wisdom and logic, a philosopher king, who would navigate the ship of state with prudence and justice. Without such enlightened rulers, Plato warned, societal discord would persist, perpetuating the woes afflicting states and humanity at large. However, Plato's lofty ideal clashed with the reality of governance, as every leader fancied themselves a philosopher king, confident in their superior insight and wisdom. This hubris persisted throughout history, from the reign of Yu, the Great in ancient China, to the rule of Labarnus in the Hittite Empire, and even to Siddhartha Gautama in the kingdom of Magadha, India. Siddhartha, born into privilege as a prince, reveled in the opulence of his palace, shielded from the harsh realities of the world. Within the palace walls he lacked nothing, surrounded by wealth and luxury. Yet his sheltered existence was shattered when he ventured beyond the confines of his lavish surroundings.